Hello and welcome to the Art of Caro. In this video I'm going to be making some Appa plushies, and I'm meaning Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the flying bison. So we could also say I'm making a bunch of flying bisons, but I'm thinking about them as Appa. To make my plushies I used a really awesome pattern that was free from Sew Desu Ne, and it actually is a question mark at the end. Coley Knight is the copyright credit. It's a really awesome pattern. You can make Appa in 3 different sizes. I was going to do 2 medium ones to begin with, because I was going to make them as gifts for 2 of my godchildren that have birthdays this month. And then my sister saw the pattern because my dad very kindly printed it out for me. Sorry, I have a shy cat. And she wanted a big one, so I made a big one for her, and then I figured I might as well do the small one with some scraps I had, and I'm gonna keep that for myself, and I really love that. And now my kitten is getting really impatient, which is a sign that it's time to head into the video. So the fabric I got for this, I had to go with the fabric that was available at the fabric store I have that is closest to me. So I got this cream colored off-white fabric that I think is cuddle fleece, maybe it's called. It's going to be his like main body color. Then for the belly and like under the feet and stuff like that, I got this brown fleece. I think this is anti-pill fleece, but I'm not sure, but it's some for a fleece anyway. And for the horns and nose I got a dark grey fleece. I think it's the same kind. I didn't have a lot of information to go on. It's easier when you're looking online. This light green one for his muzzle, and more of that cuddle fleece for his arrow in a dark brown. For the eyes and the sort of glimmer in the eye and stuff like that, I'm gonna use scraps of cotton fabric I have for the appliques. And I also bought Flisso Fix, which is, I think anyway, that's what they talk about when they say heavy duty fusible web adhesive. We shall see how that goes. I'm gonna test it out before I use it on this. So I cut out my pattern pieces. This is the large one, this is the medium one, and if you compare, this is the pattern piece for the small one. Kinda want to do a small one as well, so I've done all versions. So I'm having a bit of a dilemma. This is one side of the fabric and this is the other side. And they are both nice and soft, and yeah, this looks more neat and this looks more wild. The issue I'm having is which side will look best to be the fur for Appa. And yeah, when I put it like this, I think this side that's a bit more wild will look nicer. I think I like this side of the fleece better. This for the fur, I think it looks more like Appa's fur, so I'm gonna use this side up on that. Yeah, this is the size I'm gonna go with, and I think I'm gonna go with that side of the fleece. I'm not gonna try to figure out what it's meant to be the visible side and which is meant to be the inside. I'm just gonna go for what I feel matches Appa best, because it's all nice and soft on both sides, so that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm not gonna lay out all the pieces because I need to do that on the table and I don't have the energy for that. So here's the cutting layout. These are the pieces for the large size, and it is slightly different than the pieces for the medium, and the small one is also different. It has differences in the legs, so I'm gonna show you the differences later on when I get them done, so you can see. A bit easier than picture here because you can't see the large one, but you can see here that the small one and the medium ones are different in the legs. I'm gonna do this version here with the bangs, so because I don't have enough. It's not fur. Yeah, I'm gonna start working on it. I'm using a setting stitch to sew on the glimmer that I had fused like this to the eye, and then I'm fusing the eye to the headpiece where the eyes go using the drawings on the pattern piece, and I iron that on, and then I use a satin stitch to attach it. And then I am pinning the shin piece to the headpiece, which is a bit tricky with the curves and everything, but I just fiddled with it a while and then it worked out. And then I am stitching that on my machine using a very small zigzag stitch. And then I'm trimming off the seam allowance of the large appa, just to make it easier to turn and lie flat. Then I'm pinning the forehead piece to the other head pieces and stitching that. I have an attachment to my sewing machines to make sure that both the foot and the feeding dogs moves at the same time. Then I'm trimming the seam allowance again, and then I'm pinning all the darts. And the reason I'm using the attachment and a zigzag stitch when I sew this is because of the stretchiness to the fabric. Here I'm sewing the darts in the forehead and the chin. And then I'm attaching fusible interfacing to the arrow for the forehead and remove the other side. And then I'm ironing it to make it stick to the bang piece. Then I'm using a satin stitch to attach it to the bangs. And then I am pinning the darts in the bang piece and stitching that. And then I have two bang pieces, so I'm going to sew them together. So I need to mark out where the shapes for the bangs are going to go, so I stitch in the right place. So I'm using a marker to do that. And I need something that would actually show on the fur, so I had to use a fabric marker. And then I'm pinning that together and stitching it very, very carefully. Making sure to get all those shapes. It was kind of hard. And then I'm trimming it down, making notches and stuff like that, so I can turn it around the right side out and push out all those shapes for the bangs. And then I'm pinning the bang pieces to the forehead piece. Matching up darts and stuff like that. And then I am just pasting those together. And then I'm pinning my ear pieces together and stitching that. Trimming seam allowances and turning it right sides out. Then I am folding the ears to get them to the right shape. And just paste that together and then I'm pinning them to the head. And then I'm basting that. Then I'm using a transfer paper to transfer the lines on the stomach piece, so I know where to top stitch. And then I'm top stitching using a narrow zigzag stitch, sort of a satin stitch there as well. And then I am pinning the darts and sewing them. And then I'm pinning the stomach to the head pieces at the neck and stitching that together. And here I'm pinning together the legs for the medium appa, and then I am attaching the sort of foot piece. Pin that. That was tricky, and sewing it on was even trickier. This is where the patterns deviate, trimming the seam allowance a bit and the notches away and stuff like that, and then turning it right sides out. Then this is for the large appa. I'm pinning the foot piece to the leg piece first and making sure that that curve lines up nicely, and then I'm stitching that. And then I'm trimming the seam allowance, and then I'm just hand pressing it flat and folding it and pin the leg together, right sides together, and then I'm stitching that. And then I'm trimming the seam allowance and attaching the foot piece. Again, this portion is really tricky, especially the sewing part for this. Here I'm sewing it, making sure to take it slow and being very careful. And then I am stuffing the legs and making sure to just lightly stuff them. Transfer my markings for the leg placement onto the stomach, and then I'm pinning the legs to the stomach. And you need to stuff them lightly so you can turn it right sides out later on. But it's really hard to figure out how lightly you need to stuff them, so yeah, really tricky. And then I am basting the legs to the body. And then I'm using fusible web interfacing to attach the back of the arrow to the back of the head. Just like double-sided tape activated by the iron. It's really cool. Then I'm pinning the darts. And then, yeah, it darts at both ends of this head. And then I'm stitching the darts. And then I'm attaching the interfacing to the back, like the back of Appa. And then I am pressing that on. And I'm using a satin stitch to stitch it on, just like I did for all the other pieces. And then I'm pinning the darts here as well. I off-screen checked them on my parent pieces so they turned out right. And then I'm stitching the darts. And then I'm pinning the back to the back of the head, and I'm leaving the sort of brown fur pieces alone. I don't stitch there. That's the point where it's going to turn right sides out later on. Attaching the fusible interfacing to the tail markings, and then attaching it to the top of the tail. And satin stitching that down. Really hard with those shapes actually. Took me a while. And then I'm transferring my markings to the tail pieces, and then I'm going to top stitch that as well. And then I'm pinning it to the tail. I lost the footage for the top stitching of the tail. Here I'm stitching the tail together, and then I'm trimming the seam allowance and turning it right sides out. Then I'm pinning the tail to the bottom of the back piece and sew that together. This is more of a basting stitch. And then I am pinning my front piece of Appa and my back piece of Appa together, making sure that the legs and ears and tail are all stuffed in there. This was kind of difficult because it took up a lot of space inside of Appa and I needed to just futz around with it a long time. And then I'm zigzag stitching around the shape, making sure not to catch anything I'm not supposed to catch and to catch the things I'm supposed to catch. And then I'm turning it right sides out. And that took me a while. I didn't want to accidentally pop any stitches. There we go. It was quite a bit harder to sew the medium one properly with the smaller seam allowance. So I'm just gonna stitch this together carefully. And I also have a spot here where you can't see it on the video, I think, but the fabric wants to fray a bit. I'm actually going to use a zigzag stitch there. I've had that happen on this one. This one I've stuffed already. This one had a lot more spots that was problematic, that I'm going to hand stitch to fix it up and make it sturdier for kids to play with. You can't see it, which is great, and I can't see where I did, but there have been fraying on one or two. This one I think there was some fraying on, and I zigzag stitched this back and forth a bit and it's just hidden in the fur. So yeah, here it's a bit visible, but I'm gonna hand stitch a bit here. I'm gonna put a pin there so I don't forget, because there it started to come loose from the stitching. So, but otherwise the other spots there where I zigzag stitched a bit, it's not really visible. I'm going to fix up this and fraying, and then I'm going to stuff it. And then I'm stuffing my skybisons, and that took a lot of stuffing. I just stuffed and stuffed and stuffed, and then I pinned together the neck opening and stitched that together. It was kind of hard to get into frame, especially with the big one. And then I'm pinning the darts in the muzzle pieces, and then I'm pinning those right sides together, leaving a gap for turning. And then I'm stitching those together and trimming the seam allowance and turning it right sides out. And then I stuff them. And then I stitch together that opening using a ladder stitch to make an invisible join. Yep. And then I'm pinning the muzzle to the shin and eyepiece, and then I'm stitching those, making sure to keep my stitching as invisible as possible. It went better than I expected. It took me a while. And then I'm pinning my nose pieces together. and then trimming those and turning them right sides out. Making sure to get the right shape, and then I'm stuffing them and joining again with the ladder stitch to keep my join invisible. And then I'm stitching the nose to the muzzle and the sort of eyepiece. And then I'm pinning my horn pieces together and stitching them, trimming the excess seam allowance, turning them right sides out, and then I stuff them fairly firmly. And I'm using a gathering stitch to draw together the ends of the horn. And then I'm sort of hiding my seam allowance inside when I draw it together, and then I'm just stitching over it a bit to keep it in place. And then I'm pinning the horns to the side of the head above the ears and stitching it down. And then the first two appas are done. So I've reached a point where I could be finished with these. They look finished, right? And they basically are. But I want to just tack down the fringe so it sits where it's supposed to be. And that's the only thing I'm gonna do to this one. But this one, however, has a few construction errors, or not errors, but unavoidable snafus. I don't know what to call it. As you can see, it's a bit weird here and here, and this bison's tummy is a bit too wide, I think. I'm just going to sew it in a bit, and that's that. And then I'm just going to tack down the fringe on this. This other one I've already fixed, so you can see that the fringe is tacked down, and I sewed the legs more securely to the body. Looks much better and is a lot nicer. And also I've yanked it a bit because kids, you know. This is meant to go to a couple of kids. I'm not super worried about this being yanked around too much, but I've done some yanking on this just because I know my sister has her guy has some nieces and nephews, and my sister adores them, so they may get to play with this. So I thought I might just check so it's pretty safe for kids. The only thing I'm disappointed with is how the tail turned out, and I can't find a way to fix it, so it's gonna have to be like this. It's because it turns in like this because that brown fabric was too thin, and I didn't know that. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind if I do more plushes in the future, which I kind of want to do. I got really into this, and this is so nice to fidget with my, when I basically do my stimming by doing different crafts to feel different textures and keep my hands moving and stuff like that. And this has been really lovely to work with in that regard. Even when I got my migraine, not when it was the baddest it's been, but when it was starting to let go, this was really lovely to work with when I was feeling really sensitive. So that's great. It's this one is so cuddly. I need to make one for myself. It's so, yeah, it's like a big pillow, and it's so soft and nice and cute. And this wonderful person who has created the pattern, Coley Knight, is a genius. I've seen some more of their patterns, and I am so impressed, and I kind of want to buy some of the ones that are for purchase. Anyway, I'm definitely going to leave links to the Etsy shop and the website with the free patterns in the description box below. It's so easy to follow the instructions. I am so impressed. I wish that when I was sewing clothes that I had this much thorough instructions, because that would make life so much easier. I miss pinning in the spots where I feel it's a bit rough, and then I'm stitching to make it look nicer and be a bit more durable. Hi, sorry if you can hear my dishwasher, but I really needed to run it, so it's going in the background. I wanted to show you a mistake I made on two of my major pieces, which was really frustrating. I matched them up wrong, so but that was fine. I had more fabric, so I cut out new pieces, because this fabric you can't seam rip. I tried, it ended really horribly. Yeah, so that's not happening. What I'm going to do with this anyway is I'm gonna use it to try to squeeze out a couple of the pieces for the teeny tiny Appa, or skybison, how you want to define it if you don't want to call it Appa. Yeah, so I'm going to cut away the seams and then use this to make Appa, as well as scraps I have left over, and also if I need to, I'll bring out the fabric I have left, but I'm going to try to make it as much as possibly out of scraps, because I think that would be really fun for me. Yeah, and also it would be good to just not throw this away. It would be wasteful to just throw this away, but I can't use it, so I'm gonna cut away the seam so I can flatten this out and get the pieces, as many pieces as possible, out of these two. So it turns out that the small version is small enough for me to get the pieces into frame, which is nice. So you can show you, here I also have webbing. The only thing I don't have up here now is the eyes, because they are so small. I have them tucked away so I don't lose them. So this is the back of the head. It's gonna have this stripe. This is the bangs. I'm gonna have that stripe. Then the tail, that stripe. And for the small one, since I did the other three at the same time, I realized that this brown fabric, it was so thin, and I didn't exactly get the effect I wanted when I did the top stitching, and it was also so thin it felt like it stretched too much. So I thought maybe if I doubled the fabric it will still be quite stretchy, but I think the effect of the top stitching will be a bit nicer. So this is the other part of the tail, so that's gonna go together. This is the stomach. I did the same for that, double it up. That's gonna be the back. This is gonna be on the back. And a bit of a situation, but since it's so small, I'm just gonna piece it fell off a little bit. I'm gonna stick the interfacing, the webbing on it, and then I'm gonna do a couple of stitches to keep it together, and then do the top stitching, because I think when I do the top stitching that's just going to melt into the top stitching. This is the forehead, and this is the ears and the inner part of the ears. This is the chin. This is all the tiny little legs, the muzzle, the horns, and the nose, and the eye piece. We're supposed to put eyes. So I'm gonna do the ironing and stuff first and then start stitching. But this, except for the legs have been different for each size, but otherwise all the stuff is the same as the bigger pieces. So here you can see them laid out. And yeah, and I managed to get the most of the white fabric out of those pieces I showed you before. It was just a couple of stuff that I got from scraps I had from cutting out my bigger pieces before. So you don't really need a lot of fabric for the small one. So I think this is going to be really adorable. So I'm pinning my leg pieces together. These are teeny tiny, and then I'm stitching them. Turning them right sides out. And here I'm pinning together my 2 stomach pieces before I transfer the markings for them. And here I'm doing the same for the tail. And then I transfer the markings and I'm top stitching. It got a bit of a better effect. Then I'm stuffing the legs. And then I'm pinning the legs to the body. And then I'm basting them down. And then I'm pinning together the body pieces. Really tricky for this tiny one. And then I'm stitching the body pieces together. Again, tricky for the tiny one. Turning it right sides out. And then I noticed that a leg wasn't attached properly at all, so I just quickly stitched that on before I did anything else, so it wouldn't rip or anything. And then I stuffed my appa. And this is all of them. You can open it now.
It's so cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is the smallest version. Oh my god! Oh my god!
And then the medium one.
Oh shit!
All my Appa plushies are finished for now. I think my little sister is going to be really happy about this one, and hopefully my godchildren will be happy with these ones. And I am really thrilled with my tiny little baby Appa. He's so cute. Oh, and they are so cuddly and nice, and I kind of don't want to give them away, which is a good sign because usually they are great gifts if you don't actually want to give them away. This is fulfilling a childhood dream of mine. I always wanted a Appa plushie. But yeah, it's so cute. And these are so cute as well. And this one is so tiny and cute. Ah, yeah, I'm in cuteness overload, and the reveal you probably have seen with the Zuko and the Appas. It was so cute. Oh, I didn't have the heart to move him from my filming area. This is actually on my bed. So I tried my best to get a good filming setup. This process was very fun. As I said, the tails turned out a bit weird due to the brown fabric being so much thinner. It's a bit better on this one when I doubled up the fabric. I wish I would have known that when I did my first 3 appas, but that's how it goes sometimes. And sorry, I am so distracted by Zuko. Sweetie. Yeah. This probably will be the first video I get out after not putting anything out in the entirety of March. And that's because I had some stuff I needed to do in March that took a lot of energy, and it drained me more than I anticipated, and I also changed up my medicine. So that's taken a bit getting used to, and I've just been drained. And also the Avatar sweater, which would have been great if that was done to before this, but there are so many yarn ends I need to secure, and it takes me forever, and it's so boring. So boring. But I'm working on it, and this one will come out eventually, and I have some other projects that I only need the energy to edit and do the reveals, otherwise the projects are done. And yeah, but this was a great change of pace, doing some stuffed plushies, and yeah, this was great for my sensory issues, or like my stimming. The fabric is really nice. I'm really fighting the urge to just keep doing appas so I can just bury myself in them, and I'm also fighting the urge to figure out how to make a sort of pillow slash beanbag thingy that looks like Snorlax and is like the size of my bed. I wouldn't have a space to put it, but I've had a dream of that since I first saw Snorlax when I was a kid and watched Pokemon. Yeah, after this I kind of want to do that, but that doesn't seem like a good idea. Or like, at least not now, when I live in a tiny apartment. If I ever have a house, that seems like a great idea for like a tea room. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more of my videos in the future, you may want to subscribe and hit the notification bell. May the stars shine upon your faces and have a glorious day. Thank you, and goodbye for now.